Lesson 4.2D, solve equations with rational coefficients. So, first of all, I'm going to read what's in the box. Multiplicative inverses or reciprocals are two numbers whose product is 1. To solve an equation in which the coefficient is a fraction, multiply each side of the equation by the reciprocal of the coefficient. So here's what we're talking about. First of all, multiplicative inverses or reciprocals. I'm going to do a simple one first. They started right off the bat with a mixed number. But if I had 2/3, the reciprocal or multiplicative inverse would be 3/2. And the reason why that's important is if you multiplied those two things together, wouldn't the 2's cancel out to 1's and the 3's cancel out to 1's? So that when you went to multiply this together, you would just get 1 over 1, and that of course simplifies to 1. They're trying to have you figure out a way to solve these equations that have fractions simpler, in a simpler way. And this multiplicative inverse or reciprocal is going to help you with that. Now we are going to do a little practice with finding multiplicative inverses. So they're saying that if your fraction was 3 1/4, you can't really do a reciprocal of 3 1/4. You've got to change it to an improper fraction first. So that would involve 4 times 3 plus 1, which is 13 over 4. And then the reciprocal, you would flip that over to 4/13. While we're talking about this, I'm going to go down to the problems at the bottom, and there's a few where we can find the multiplicative inverse or reciprocal. So let's go ahead and do these. So for number 1, what would the multiplicative inverse be of 4/9? Liam? 9/4. What about 12/13? Mason? 13/12. What about 15/4? Dylan? Yeah. And then last but not least, what about this 6 1/7? What do I got to do with that thing? Jacob?
Take 7 times 6 and add 1.
7 times 6 plus 1, what is that?
43.
43 over?
6.
Nope. 43 over 7. And then write the reciprocal. What's the reciprocal then, Jacob? 7 over 43. Okay. Questions about reciprocals? Yes?
So it's basically you're just turning the fraction upside down.
Basically turning the fraction upside down. If it's a mixed number, you got to change it to a fraction. Okay, now, why is this important? Let's go back up to the top. Let's go back up to their example. This is a one-step equation, just like we were just doing in the lesson 4.1D. This 4/5 x equals 8. Well, here's the thing. 4/5 x, that is a multiplication. And the other day when we had a multiplication, we divided both sides by that number, but you don't really divide fractions, do you? Don't we multiply by the reciprocal? So in this case, if you multiply by 5/4, that makes this all fall away and you just have x. And then of course you have to multiply by 5/4 on the right and you'll get whatever it turns out to be. In this case, the 8 is over 1 and the 4 and the 8 cancel for 1 and 2. 5 times 2 is 10, and it's 10 over 1, but it reduces to just plain old 10. So I want to look at the examples down here. These are the type of problems you're going to get today. Let's look at number 5. It says 3/5 x equals 12. 3/5. So I have to multiply by the reciprocal. What is the reciprocal of 3/5? Mason? So I'm going to multiply both sides. If I can get this to work. Oh, now I see what's wrong. Hold on. There we go. Multiply both sides by 5/3. Mason, over here on the left, the 5's cancel, the 3's cancel, I get x. But now over here on the right, this is where we have to do a little work. If I put 12 over 1, Mason, is there anything that cancels out? Not the 5 and the 1. The 1 is really as low as it goes. Anything else? Yep, the 12 and the 3. So the 12 and the 3, what would the 12 become? 4, and the 3 becomes 1. So now you got to multiply straight across. 4 times 5 on top, 20, and then 1 times 1 on the bottom. And Mason, what does that simplify to? 20. Okay, we're going to go ahead and do number 6. And I'm going to write it over here so I have a little more space. So 16 equals 10/3 A. What is my reciprocal of 10/3? What am I going to multiply by, Caden?
You're going to multiply by 3/10.
So I'm going to multiply both sides by 3/10. And when I do that, over there with my A, the 10's cancel out, the 3's cancel out, and I'm left with A. But what about this 3/10 and the 16? If I put the 16 over 1, Caden, is there anything that cancels?
You can take, you can divide 16 and 10 both by 2.
That's exactly right. Very good. The 16 and 10 you can both divide by 2. So they're going to reduce. The 16 would become what?
8.
8. And the 10 would become 5. Now, Caden, we have to multiply straight across. So for the top, what's 3 times 8?
3 times 8 is 24.
24. And the bottom, 5 times 1.
That would be 5.
Okay, now, is 24/5 a good final answer?
No.
No. So I have to divide this. How many full times will 5 go into 24?
They'll go in 4 times.
4 full times, so that's my whole part. And 4 times 5 is how much?
4 times 5 is 20.
With 4 left. So 4 and
4 and 4/5.
4 and 4/5. Very good. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and do number 8. 15/7 y equals 3. What's my reciprocal of 15/7? What's my reciprocal of 15/7? Dylan?
7/15.
7 over 15. So the 7's cancel, the 15 cancel, and I get y. Now, Dylan, I get 3 over 1 over here on the right. Does anything cancel out of that?
3 and 15.
The 3 and the 15, and they become what?
The 15 becomes a 5 and the 3 becomes a
1 and 5. Multiply straight across, and what do I get? 7 over 5. And is 7 over 5 a good answer? No, so I've got to divide. How many full times does 5 go into 7? 1 full time, and then how much is left over?
2,
1 and 2/5. Okay, now I do want to show you one like number 7 because that's a little different, right? Does everybody have the red and blue written? Okay, I'm going to delete it. Let's look at number 7. Number 7. 9 equals 0.3n. Now, what I want you to do on this is we're actually going to end up dividing by 0.3. Actually, I'm going to change my mind. Sorry. Does anybody know what fraction 0.3 is the same as, Eli? 3/10. So what we're going to do is this. We're going to say this is 9 equals 3/10 n. So Eli, what's my reciprocal of 3/10? 10/3. Okay, so over on the right, those 3's cancel, the 10's cancel, and I get an n. Now, over on the left, Eli, I'm going to put my 9 over 1. Does anything cancel out? Yep. And what do they become? Right. So when you multiply straight across, 10 times 3 on the top is 30, and 1 times 1 on the bottom. And what's my reduced answer, Eli? 30. So look and see if you can change that decimal to a fraction so that you can multiply by that reciprocal. This one, I don't want to take the time to do this. I want you to have some time to work. But this 0.75, does anybody know what fraction that would be the same as, Kirsten? 75 over 100, but that would reduce to what? Do you know 75 over 100? 3 something. 3/4. Yeah, so then you would multiply both sides by 4/3. Okay, so what you're going to do is make sure that you multiply both sides by that reciprocal so that the variable will be by itself, and then you'll have to go ahead and multiply those fractions on the right, probably putting some things over 1. Questions?